The crimson sunset bleeds over the jagged, smoke-choked horizon of the Ottoman camp. Sultan Mehmed II stands motionless upon a high, rocky outcrop overlooking the valley. His silhouette is sharply defined by the chaotic flicker of thousands of nearby torches. Below him, the impossible begins to unfold in the dark, dense forest. Ottoman soldiers strain against thick, coarse ropes, their faces smeared with mud and sweat. Teams of massive oxen heave against the weight of heavy wooden sledges. A gargantuan galley rests upon the sledges, its hull scraping against the forest floor. The sound of groaning timber echoes through the trees, defying all naval logic. Soldiers push with desperate strength, their muscles rippling under the dim torchlight. The air is thick with the pungent scent of pine, oil, and human desperation. Mehmed remains a statue of cold, strategic resolve, watching the Herculean labor. His eyes are fixed on the distant, silent walls of Constantinople. Byzantine torches flicker like dying stars along the city's impenetrable stone ramparts. The defenders remain unaware that the sea is being carried across the earth. The soldier stumbles, his boots slipping on the greased path beneath the sledge. His comrade grabs his arm, pulling him back into the rhythm of the march. The massive galley lurches forward another few inches, crushing saplings under its weight. Mehmed adjusts his heavy cloak, his expression unreadable in the shifting firelight. He traces the path on a scroll, calculating the remaining distance to the harbor. The forest canopy shakes as the ship's mast brushes against low-hanging branches. Sparks fly from the friction of wood against the greased wooden tracks. The Sultan's guards stand at attention, their scimitars catching the orange glow. The captain shouts commands, his voice raspy from hours of constant exertion. The oxen bellow, their breath visible in the cooling night air. Every man knows the gravity of this singular, impossible task. The ship looms over the soldiers like a leviathan emerging from the deep woods. Mehmed's gaze never wavers from the distant, unsuspecting city walls. He knows the chain blocking the Golden Horn is now rendered entirely useless. The ground trembles slightly under the immense weight of the passing fleet. Shadows dance violently against the trunks of ancient, towering oaks. A group of engineers inspects the sledges, ensuring the grease holds firm. The Sultan signals to an aide, who quickly records the progress on parchment. The atmosphere is heavy with the weight of impending conquest and history. Another ship follows behind, its prow cutting through the brush like a plow. The soldiers' chanting grows louder, a rhythmic pulse driving the operation forward. Mehmed steps closer to the edge of the cliff, peering into the darkness. The city of Constantinople sleeps, oblivious to the wooden monsters approaching its gates. The moonlight struggles to pierce the thick, swirling smoke of the campfires. A lantern swings from the ship's rigging, casting long, eerie shadows across the path. The Sultan's hand rests firmly on the hilt of his ornate, jeweled sword. He envisions the fleet sliding into the water behind the enemy's iron chain. The sheer audacity of the plan matches the Sultan's own iron ambition. Exhausted men collapse for a moment, only to be urged up by their officers. The forest seems to groan in protest as the ships carve a new path. Mehmed turns away from the view, his mind already planning the morning assault. The flickering torches reflect in his dark, calculating eyes for a brief second. The impossible passage continues, a testament to the Sultan's absolute, terrifying will. The night holds its breath as the fleet nears the edge of the ridge. A heavy wooden beam cracks under the immense pressure of the hull. Engineers rush forward with iron wedges to stabilize the precarious, shifting load. The Sultan watches the repair, his jaw set in a line of grim determination. Dust and wood shavings swirl in the torchlight as the work intensifies. The ship stabilizes, and the rhythmic pulling resumes with renewed, desperate vigor. Mehmed looks up at the stars, seeking a sign of divine favor tonight. His generals murmur amongst themselves, awestruck by the scale of the operation. The slope begins to level out, signaling the final push toward the water. The distant sound of the sea begins to mingle with the forest noises. A scout returns, whispering news of the clear path ahead to the Sultan. Mehmed nods once, his face illuminated by a sudden bright flare of torchlight. The fleet is ready to descend upon the unsuspecting waters of the Golden Horn. The night deepens, swallowing the horizon in a shroud of impenetrable, velvet black. Rhythmic chanting rises from the laboring men, echoing through the dense, ancient forest. The sound of groaning timber against earth creates a haunting symphony of conquest. Mehmed II turns away from the edge, his boots crunching on dry pine needles. He approaches a makeshift map table constructed from rough-hewn oak planks. A single brass compass sits atop the parchment, catching the flickering orange firelight. The Sultan's fingers trace the intricate, hand-drawn lines of the Golden Horn. His eyes narrow, calculating the final, grueling distance to the water's edge. The map is stained with sweat and the faint, dark smudge of charcoal. Outside the tent, the massive galley begins to crest the highest ridge. The ship's dark hull looms over the soldiers like a leviathan emerging from the earth. Oxen strain against their yokes, their breath visible as white plumes in the cold air. Soldiers collapse, their chests heaving with the weight of their impossible labor. A commander shouts orders, his voice cracking with exhaustion and desperate urgency. The ropes pull taut, vibrating with the immense tension of the moving vessel. Greased wooden rollers creak and pop under the crushing weight of the galley. Mehmed watches from the shadows, his expression unreadable and devoid of pity. He knows the cost of this maneuver is measured in blood and broken bone, yet his vision remains fixed on the prize waiting beyond the hills. The galley teeters on the precipice, momentarily suspended between forest and sea. A soldier slips in the mud, his hand clawing at the slick, dark soil. His comrades grab him, hauling him back into the line of rhythmic pulling. The momentum is a living thing, unstoppable and fueled by the Sultan's iron will. Mehmed adjusts the compass, marking a new point on the map with a quill. He looks toward the distant, silent walls of the city one last time. The Byzantine torches still flicker, oblivious to the encroaching shadow of the fleet. The forest floor is scarred by deep, parallel furrows left by the sledges. Oil drips from the rollers, soaking into the earth like spilled black blood. The smell of pine is overwhelmed by the metallic tang of sweat and grease. A massive wooden mast sways, brushing against the low-hanging branches of an oak. Leaves shower down upon the deck of the ship like autumn rain. The soldiers push harder, their muscles corded and glistening in the torchlight. Mehmet steps out of the tent, his silhouette imposing against the chaotic scene. He raises a hand, signaling for the final descent to begin in earnest. The galley tips forward, gravity taking hold of the gargantuan wooden beast. It slides down the slope, gathering speed as the men struggle to maintain control. The sound of grinding wood intensifies, a roar that drowns out the chanting. Mehmed's eyes track the ship's progress, his heart steady as a ticking clock. The strategic trap is closing, the net tightening around the unsuspecting city. The fleet is no longer bound by the laws of the sea. The land has been transformed into a highway for the Ottoman war machine. The Sultan's ambition has rewritten the geography of this ancient, storied conflict. The ship reaches the bottom of the ridge, settling into the soft, marshy ground. Silence briefly descends, punctuated only by the heavy breathing of the exhausted men. Mehmed walks toward the galley, his stride purposeful and calm. He touches the cold, damp wood of the hull, feeling the vibration of victory. The fall of the ancient city is now an inevitable, approaching reality. The Sultan turns back to his army, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. He inspects the hull for damage, his touch lingering on the scarred timber. The men watch him, their exhaustion momentarily eclipsed by a sense of awe. He nods to his generals, confirming the next phase of the grand assault. Torches are raised high, casting long, dancing shadows against the ship's massive side. The Golden Horn glimmers in the distance, a silver ribbon waiting for their arrival. The chain blocking the harbor seems fragile now, a mere trinket against their power. Mehmed points toward the water, his fingers steady against the dark night sky. The soldiers respond with a low, guttural roar of renewed, fierce determination. They begin to clear the final obstacles from the path to the shore. The galley moves forward again, sliding smoothly over the prepared, greased tracks. The Sultan walks alongside the ship, a king leading his wooden fortress to war. The final stretch of the journey begins under the watchful gaze of the moon.